Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt just a little off? Not in a dramatic way. Just something small. Maybe your shirt felt a little stale, even though you were sure it was clean. Maybe your mouth felt dry, or your breath wasn't as fresh as you'd like. Maybe you passed by a mirror and noticed your hair was a little unkempt, or you caught a whiff of something unfamiliar and thought, did I forget something today? If you've ever felt like that, even for a second, I want you to know, you're not alone. Not even close. Aging brings changes, some we expect, some we don't. And one of the most common ones? It's how we care for ourselves day to day. The little habits we used to do without thinking, showering, brushing our teeth, changing clothes, they start to slip. Not because we're lazy. Not because we don't care. But sometimes, because we're tired. Because our hands don't work like they used to. Because the bathroom feels colder than it used to. Because reaching down to tie a shoe, or stepping into a tub, now feels like a risk. And the truth is, these quiet changes? Doctors notice them almost immediately. But families? Not always. They might not smell what you smell. They might not see what you see. And before you know it, something that felt small, like skipping a bath or wearing the same sweater again, can turn into something bigger. Rashes. Infections. Hospital stays. And worst of all, a feeling of losing control over your own life. But let's be clear, this isn't about shame. This is about dignity. Because personal hygiene isn't just about looking tidy. It's about how you feel in your own skin. It's about protecting your health. It's about holding on to your comfort, your independence, and your pride. And if that's gotten harder lately, I want you to hear this: there is nothing to be embarrassed about. What matters now is awareness. It's knowing what's worth paying attention to, and finding smart, simple ways to stay on top of it, so you can feel good and stay well. That's why this video is for you. In the next few minutes, we're going to go over 7 personal hygiene mistakes older adults commonly make, sometimes without even realizing it. These are the kinds of things that quietly impact your well-being, even though they might seem small. And number 5? It might surprise you. It's something hardly anyone talks about, but it affects more people than you'd think. So, whether you're aging gracefully, living independently, or just wanting to feel a little more like yourself again, stick with me. This is a gentle, honest conversation, just between us. No judgment. Just real care, real tips, and real support to help you live better and feel better. And if something I say today strikes a chord, if you've ever whispered to yourself, "I've been there," or "that sounds like me," drop a little "I'm here" in the comments. Because you are. And you're not the only one. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This is Elderly Wisdom Guide, your space for heartfelt, down-to-earth conversations about health, aging, and dignity. We're not here to talk down to you. We're here to walk with you. Now let's dive in. First on the list, neglecting oral hygiene. You ever notice someone who used to smile wide, just stop doing it? Let me tell you a quick story. Mrs. Alvarez, she's in her late 70s, was once the light of every family gathering. Her laugh could fill a room, and she loved talking with her grandkids about everything from cartoons to history. But over time, her family noticed something subtle. She started speaking less. Covered her mouth more. Stopped smiling in photos. At first, they thought maybe she was just feeling tired, or maybe a bit moody. But during a routine checkup, the dentist discovered something heartbreaking: advanced gum disease. Her gums were inflamed, some teeth were loose, and she'd been in pain for weeks without telling anyone. Why didn't she say anything? Simple, she was embarrassed. And that embarrassment led to silence, which led to suffering. See, as we age, our bodies naturally go through changes that we often don't talk about enough. One of them is reduced saliva production. Now, you might not think that matters much, but saliva plays a huge role in oral health. It helps clean the mouth, fight bacteria, and protect your teeth and gums. Less saliva means a drier mouth, which creates the perfect environment for plaque buildup, tooth decay, and gum disease. And once those issues start, they can snowball fast. Here's the thing, many families assume oral hygiene is optional in older age. Oh, mom brushes when she feels like it. Or, dad's got dentures, so there's no need to worry. But that's not just a mistake, it's a dangerous one. Oral health doesn't become less important with age. It actually becomes more important. Especially since poor dental hygiene can lead to infections that spread to other parts of the body, affect nutrition, and even impact heart health. So, what can you do? Start small. Get an electric toothbrush, they're easier to handle and often more effective at cleaning. Set gentle reminders, especially if memory is starting to fade. Make sure dentures are cleaned daily and properly stored. And don't skip the dentist visits, even if it's just for a quick checkup. These aren't luxuries. They're essential steps to keep your loved one pain-free and confident. Now, that's something you can see, if you look close enough. But what about the things you can't see? The issues that are hiding, literally, beneath the surface? Let's move to the next mistake. One that often goes unnoticed, until the effects start seeping through clothing, furniture, and even a person's self-esteem. Infrequent bathing. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But it's far more common than you think. Eleanor used to be meticulous about her appearance. Every morning, she'd take her warm bath, lay out her fresh clothes, and spritz a bit of lavender behind her ears. Cleanliness was part of who she was. But over the years, her daughter noticed subtle changes. Eleanor started avoiding outings. She didn't want to come close for hugs. And when her daughter did get close, she caught a strong, unpleasant odor. It wasn't like Eleanor. At all. When gently asked about it, Eleanor gave simple reasons. The tiles are too cold, she said. I'm too tired today, she'd shrug. I'll bathe tomorrow. But tomorrow kept getting pushed back, again and again. And here's what most people don't realize, this isn't laziness. It's not neglect in the way people assume. More often than not, it's fear. Fear of slipping. Fear of not being able to get back up. Fear of the cold. Fear of being alone in a vulnerable position. And those fears? They're powerful. They keep many seniors from bathing for days, or even weeks. Now, yes, it's true that as we age, our skin becomes thinner, more sensitive, more prone to dryness. But avoiding hygiene altogether? That can have serious consequences. When bathing becomes infrequent, body oils, sweat, and bacteria build up. The skin can develop rashes, fungal infections, especially in warm, moist areas like under the arms or between skin folds. And if you think that's harmless, imagine an elderly person with already fragile skin dealing with an untreated infection, which then leads to open sores or cellulitis. These are the kinds of issues that land people in the hospital. Here's another dangerous misconception, that older adults don't need to bathe as much. It's one of those beliefs that gets passed around like old advice, but it's simply not true. Bacteria doesn't care how old you are. Sweat doesn't stop. And body odor? It can be a sign that something's being ignored. So how do you help? You create an environment where bathing feels safe and manageable. Install grab bars in the tub and near the toilet. Lay down non-slip mats. Set out pre-warm towels to take the sting out of the cold air. Use a shower chair so you don't have to stand. Get a gentle assistance when needed. And when you treat bathing not just as a chore, but as an act of dignity and care, it changes everything. Now, since we're already talking about the bathroom, let's gently step into something even more private. It's a topic that most people avoid, but doctors spot it almost immediately. And when it's ignored, it can leave a person feeling ashamed, uncomfortable, and even isolated. Poor incontinence management. This one, it's personal. It's private. And for many elderly people, it's something they'd rather suffer through quietly than speak up about. Frank is one of those people. He's 81. Sharp as ever. Loves his crossword puzzles, never misses his morning coffee. But lately, something changed. He stopped going out. Started skipping family visits. When his daughter asked why, he just muttered something about not feeling up to it. She thought maybe it was fatigue, or maybe just age catching up with him. But the truth? Frank had started wearing absorbent briefs. And he was terrified of anyone noticing. He was embarrassed. He didn't want help. And so, he wore the same brief all day. Sometimes longer. Silent. Ashamed. By the time his family realized, Frank had developed painful rashes. The skin around his groin was red, raw, and starting to break down. A visit to the doctor confirmed it, not just skin irritation, but a full-blown urinary tract infection. This happens so often. And here's the science behind it. Skin that's exposed to moisture, waste, and friction, especially when it's not cleaned or aired out properly, starts to deteriorate fast. The protective barrier breaks down. Bacteria get in. Fungus can thrive in that warm, damp environment. And what starts as a little irritation can become a major wound or infection if left untreated. But here's the kicker, so many families think this is just part of getting old. They chalk it up to age, to loss of control, and worse, they ignore it until it's a crisis. But unmanaged incontinence isn't just inconvenient. It's not just embarrassing. It's a medical red flag. We have to shift the way we think and talk about this. Because with the right tools, discreet hygiene is absolutely possible. There are breathable, skin-friendly adult briefs designed to wick away moisture and reduce odor. Barrier creams help protect sensitive skin. And scheduled changes, even just checking in during the day, can prevent small problems from becoming big ones. And please, if your loved one is avoiding the topic, meet them with compassion, not correction. This isn't about hygiene alone. It's about preserving dignity. About helping them feel clean, comfortable, and unashamed. The moment we treat it like just another part of care, no big deal, no shame attached, it becomes easier for them to accept help. And now, we move from the skin, to something even smaller. Something right at your fingertips. Something that most people don't give a second thought, but doctors? They see it instantly. Untrimmed nails and dirty hands. Sometimes, it's the smallest details that tell the biggest stories. David is 86. A quiet man, gentle spirit, always reading or fixing something around the house. His hands, though worn with time, still held a certain pride. But during a recent visit to a clinic, the nurse paused. She gently took David's hand and looked closer. His fingernails were long, so long they had begun to curl under, collecting layers of dirt and grime. His son, sitting right next to him, hadn't noticed. And David? He hadn't either. His eyesight isn't what it used to be. His grip isn't strong enough for nail clippers anymore. And honestly, no one had thought to check. You see, untrimmed nails and dirty hands might seem like a cosmetic concern. Something that's more about looks than health. But that's one of the biggest misconceptions we can make, because under those nails, there's a whole world of bacteria. And here's where science steps in. Fingernails, especially when long or jagged, become perfect hiding places for germs. Dirt, dead skin, food particles, they all get trapped underneath. And when hands aren't cleaned regularly or thoroughly, those bacteria can transfer to the mouth, to wounds, to shared surfaces. Now, combine that with an aging immune system, which is slower to respond and more prone to infection, and you've got a recipe for preventable illness. Infections from dirty nails or poorly washed hands can lead to stomach bugs, respiratory issues, and skin problems. Something as simple as scratching an itch can break the skin and introduce bacteria. And if your loved one is diabetic or has poor circulation, that little scratch can become a serious health concern fast. So why does it happen? Because in many households, nail care slips through the cracks. It doesn't feel like a priority. Maybe you're rushing between appointments. Maybe you don't want to make your loved one feel self-conscious. Or maybe you just didn't notice, until someone else did. But here's a gentle fix: turn it into something warm. Something comforting. Set up a weekly hand care ritual, not as a chore, but as a little spa moment. Soak their hands in warm water with a drop of essential oil. Use soft towels. Gently trim their nails, file down the edges, and clean beneath them. Follow up with a light hand massage using lotion. Trust me, what started as a task becomes a bonding moment. And for your loved one, it's a moment of dignity, connection, and care. This isn't just hygiene. It's love, expressed through touch. Now, if you've stayed with me this far, you're about to hear something that catches almost everyone off guard. It's not about what's being missed on the outside. It's about a mistake most people make without even knowing it, something that even doctors say is more common than we think. Mistake number 5 is surprising, and it might be happening in your own home right now. Wearing the same clothes for days, shocking. Now this one might actually catch you off guard. Because on the surface, it looks like everything's just fine. You walk into the room, you see your loved one dressed, neat, cozy in their favorite cardigan or housecoat. You smile. They look okay. But let me tell you about Betty. Betty was always stylish. Back in her day, she wouldn't step outside without her lipstick and earrings. Even in her 80s, she still cared about looking presentable. Her family often complimented her on how put together she always seemed, especially in that soft blue sweater they loved seeing her in. But what they didn't realize: Betty had 3 identical blue sweaters. Or at least, that's what they thought. Turns out, she only had one. One sweater. And she'd been wearing it for over a week. It was only when a visiting caregiver leaned in for a gentle hug and caught a strong smell, a mix of body odor, food stains, and something else that lingered, that the truth surfaced. Betty wasn't changing her clothes. Not even her undergarments, some days. She was doing her best. But arthritis made buttons painful. Laundry felt overwhelming. And she didn't want to bother anyone for help. This is so common. And here's what makes it dangerous: clothes, especially undergarments and nightwear, harbor bacteria, sweat, dead skin, and sometimes traces of urine or stool in cases of light incontinence. That buildup doesn't just cause odor, it can lead to skin irritation, fungal infections, and in severe cases, even pressure sores if the fabric stays moist or gritty for too long. But here's the real problem: families don't notice. Why? Because the clothes look clean. They don't see obvious stains. There's no chaos or disarray. But the smell? The texture of the fabric? The way it clings differently to the body? Doctors and nurses notice instantly. It's not about fashion, it's about comfort, hygiene, and health. Now, how do we fix it without making our loved one feel embarrassed? Keep it simple. Create a wardrobe rotation system that empowers them. Label bins clearly: clean, worn once, and laundry. Choose soft, easy-to-change clothing, avoid tricky buttons or tight sleeves. Keep the clean clothes in reach. If laundry feels overwhelming for them, offer to take care of it or bring in help. You can even gently say, "Let's pick out a fresh outfit for today, just like old times," and make it feel like a special ritual instead of a correction. Dignity can live in the details. And a clean shirt? A fresh pair of pants? They can lift someone's whole mood. But here's the thing, hygiene isn't just about clothes, or hands, or baths. Sometimes, the most overlooked hygiene mistake is sitting right there, staring us in the face, yet we walk past it every time. Let's talk about what's happening in the room around us. Unwashed bedding and towels. You ever walk into a room and something just feels heavy? Not dirty exactly, just stale. That was Ruth's guest room. Ruth, 89, was always proud of her home. Everything had a place. Her favorite floral curtains hung neatly in the windows, and her porcelain tea set was always dusted and displayed. But one afternoon, her teenage grandson stayed over. He grabbed a towel from the bathroom, dried off after a quick shower, and a few hours later, he had a rash on his arm. It started as a mild itch, but by the next day, it had spread. The towel? It was stiff as cardboard. Not from age, but from buildup. Ruth hadn't washed it in over a month. And her sheets? They hadn't seen a laundry cycle in even longer. Now, this is something most people don't want to talk about. Not because they don't care, but because it sneaks up on them. When you live alone or get tired easily, it's easy to forget when you last washed your linens. And if you're not sweating heavily, you might think, oh, it's fine for another week. But here's what's happening beneath the surface. Towels and bedding trap sweat, body oils, dead skin cells, and even flakes from scalp and feet. Over time, they become a perfect environment for bacteria, fungi, and dust mites, tiny creatures that feed on those skin cells and multiply in warm, dark spaces like bed sheets and bath towels. Now add in fragile aging skin, maybe a scratch or two, or a little incontinence leakage, and suddenly these soft fabrics can irritate, infect, or even cause respiratory issues. The skin becomes itchy, flaky, inflamed. In some elderly individuals, these reactions are mistaken for allergies or medication side effects, but the source? Sometimes it's right there in the fabric. And the worst part? A lot of folks don't realize how quickly this builds up. Many believe washing once a month is enough, especially if the sheets look clean and don't smell. But remember, smell isn't the first sign of bacteria. Comfort is. If the fabric feels stiff, scratchy, or heavy, it's likely overdue for a wash. So how do you stay on top of it? Make it part of a weekly routine. Every Sunday or Monday, strip the bed, gather the towels, and toss them in. If your loved one can't do this themselves, set a reminder, or ask a caregiver or family member to help. And if that feels overwhelming, invest in extra bedding and towel sets so there's always a fresh one ready. This one simple act, fresh linens, can lift spirits. There's something incredibly comforting about climbing into a clean bed with soft sheets. It's dignity. It's care. And it's health. Now we've talked about clothing, nails, bathing, even the bed they sleep in. But here's what's interesting. Before a doctor even looks at their chart, before one question is asked, before a symptom is described, there's one final hygiene mistake that immediately catches attention. It's not about what your loved one wears, or what they touch. It's what doctors see on their face, and it speaks volumes. Neglected foot care. Tom was a quiet man. Never one to complain. Always the type to say, "I'm fine," even when he clearly wasn't. His daughter brought him to a routine checkup, nothing urgent, just one of those annual visits. But the moment the doctor asked Tom to remove his shoes, silence fell over the room. Cracked heels, thickened yellow toenails, and dry patches that looked like they'd been there for months. A closer look revealed slight swelling around the ankles. No one had noticed before. Not even Tom. Because he didn't feel any pain, yet. And that's the thing about feet, they suffer silently. Our feet carry us for decades. But as we get older, circulation starts to slow, especially in the lower limbs. For seniors, this means the tiniest nick, the smallest fungal infection, or a bit of unnoticed swelling can quickly spiral into something much more serious: ulcers, infections, even amputations in extreme cases, particularly for those living with diabetes or vascular issues. The skin on our feet becomes dry and thin, just like the rest of the body. But unlike hands or faces, we don't see our feet every day. We don't moisturize them regularly, and let's be honest, most of us skip over them unless something hurts. But pain isn't always the first sign of a problem, sometimes it's the last. One of the most common issues? Fungal infections in the toenails. What starts as slight discoloration or thickening can become painful, even dangerous, if ignored. And cracked heels? They're not just a cosmetic issue, they're entry points for bacteria. For an aging immune system, that can mean trouble. And the worst part? Many elderly individuals struggle to reach their feet, let alone care for them. They might skip trimming their nails out of fear of cutting too deep. Or they might wear socks all day, even to bed, hiding problems from everyone, even themselves. But here's where a little attention makes all the difference. Start by simply looking. Once a week, take a few minutes to check the skin for redness, swelling, or changes in color. Notice any new calluses? Any spots that seem irritated or look unusual? Moisturize the heels and soles with a gentle, unscented lotion. And when it's time to trim toenails, make it a calm, regular part of self-care, or bring in a podiatrist if needed. Foot care isn't vanity. It's not just about looking nice for summer sandals. It's about mobility, independence, and infection prevention. Healthy feet mean steady steps, fewer falls, and more freedom to move through life. Because once an elderly person starts avoiding walking due to foot discomfort, it leads to a chain reaction: less movement, weaker muscles, more time in bed or sitting, and that opens the door to more health complications. So, when a doctor walks into the room and sees neglected feet, they know there's likely more going on. It's a clear message that something is being missed at home. Which brings us to the heart of today's message. We've gone through 7 personal hygiene mistakes. And not one of them is about laziness. Not one is about neglect, in the way people might assume. They're about overwhelm, fear, and sometimes just the simple limits of the aging body. Now that we've gone through these 7, let's take a deep breath, and take a step back. Because the real issue isn't just about hygiene. It's about dignity, connection, and making sure we feel safe, clean, and cared for. Have you ever looked around your home and noticed the little things slipping? Maybe the laundry hasn't been folded. Maybe the shower feels like too much effort today. Maybe your toothbrush looks dry from the day before, and you thought, I'll get to it tomorrow. You're not lazy. You're not careless. You're human. And aging? It changes things. Tasks that were once automatic now take more energy, sometimes more courage, than anyone realizes. You might skip a bath because the tiles are cold, or because the tub feels risky. Maybe the towel's too far to reach. Or you simply forget. But deep down, you still care about how you look. How you smell. How you feel in your own skin. And that matters. Because this isn't just about hygiene, it's about dignity. It's about holding on to your sense of self. It's about comfort, confidence, and feeling good when you look in the mirror. So, let's clear something up. Letting these things slide doesn't mean you failed. It means it's time for a bit more support, a few simple habits, or maybe just someone to remind you, you're worth the effort. Yes, you still matter. Every day. In every small way. If you've ever felt too tired to shower, if you've worn the same sweater a few too many days in a row, if your toothbrush hasn't moved much lately, it's okay. But it's also okay to do something about it. You deserve to feel clean. You deserve to feel fresh. You deserve the same care you once gave to others. So today, just take 5 minutes. Look in the mirror with kindness. Check your towel, does it need a wash? Brush your hair, even if you're not going anywhere. Run warm water and treat your skin to a gentle rinse. You might be surprised how good it feels, how alive it makes you feel. And if it's hard to do alone, ask for help. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know you don't have to do it all on your own anymore. A clean body can lift your spirit. A fresh bed can ease your sleep. A small act of self-care, it can make the day feel lighter. So please, don't let shame keep you silent. Don't let pride stop you from reaching out. You haven't lost who you are, you've just had to adjust. And adjusting is strength. And if no one said it to you lately, let me say it now, your effort is seen. Your presence is powerful. And you are deeply, truly worthy, of care, of comfort, and of respect. Every single day. Let's do a quick recap, just to keep it fresh in your mind. These are the 7 personal hygiene mistakes doctors often notice right away, even when families or caregivers don't. 1. Neglected oral hygiene. It often starts with a dry mouth, but can lead to painful tooth and gum problems if left alone. 2. Infrequent bathing, not just about body odor, but about protecting your skin from rashes and infections. 3. Poor incontinence management. When moisture isn't properly managed, it can lead to irritation, sores, or even serious infections. 4. Untrimmed nails and dirty hands. Something as simple as long nails can carry harmful bacteria. 5. Wearing the same clothes for days, even if they look clean. Old clothing can carry bacteria and irritate the skin. 6. Unwashed bedding and towels. Those cozy fabrics trap germs over time, even if you don't see or smell them. 7. Neglected foot care. Your feet often show early signs of diabetes, infection, and circulation issues long before you feel anything wrong. Now let me ask you something. Which one of these surprised you the most? Or maybe one of them hit a little close to home, something you've noticed in yourself but didn't know mattered. You're not alone. There's no shame in missing a step now and then. That's part of growing older, but it doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you take small steps, at your pace, with kindness and awareness. So, if one of these points gave you something to think about, if it helped you notice a habit you might want to improve, I invite you to scroll down and leave a comment. Not to confess. Not to complain. But to share. To encourage someone else who might be feeling the same way. To remind each other that you're never too old to take care of yourself, or to learn something new. Here at Elderly Wisdom Guide, we're not just about giving advice. We're about building a space where seniors feel seen, respected, and empowered. So, if this video gave you clarity, comfort, or even a little motivation, give it a like. Hit that subscribe button if it spoke to you. And if you know a friend who might appreciate this, consider sharing it with them. We're here every single week, offering thoughtful, gentle conversations that respect your journey and honor your wisdom. Because aging isn't a decline, it's a continuation. A chapter where care, peace, and pride should shine more brightly than ever before. Thanks for spending your time with me today. You're doing better than you give yourself credit for. And yes, you still deserve care, dignity, and a daily routine that makes you feel good inside and out. Until next time, my friend. Stay kind. Stay curious. And stay wise.